Brittney Griner, who was imprisoned in Russia in a man's prison, which I had no idea about. And
there has been widespread speculation for a while now, but it's really kind of come to a head on Twitter over the last couple of days that Brittney Griner, the WNBA's Brittney Griner, is in fact a man. And I mean, you guys could probably say like, yo, isn't it obvious? Like her voice.
When one rattling elbow, a half-caught phrase, and a mystery medical leak can flip an entire league on its head, you know women's basketball is having anything but a slow news week. It all started with that now viral dust-up between Atlanta Dream center Brittney Griner and rookie sensation Caitlin Clark. A hard foul, a flash of words nobody can quite agree on, and a social media wildfire that refused to die down. In the days since, a cottage industry of pundits has bloomed, some crying racist slur, others waving around grainy freeze frames of Griner's physique and claiming shadowy doctors see something biologically suspicious. Meanwhile, the WNBA's official response has been about as audible as a referee's whistle in an empty gym. Add in Riley Gaines' megaphone, OutKick's front row outrage, and a fan base now torn between hero worship and horror, and you've got the most combustible storyline the league has faced since its founding. That mid-May matchup was supposed to be a showcase. The Indiana Fever's white-hot ticket, Caitlin Clark versus an Atlanta Dream squad anchored by Griner, whose return from a harrowing 2022 Russian detention saga had already turned her into equal parts folk hero and lightning rod. The game roared along until late in the fourth when Clark drove the lane, met Griner's 7-foot wingspan, and caught an elbow that looked, depending on which replay you pause, either like garden variety rim protection or a deliberate call your shot haymaker. Clark hit the hardwood. Fans hit record, and from there, the internet did what it does best. It looped, zoomed, lip-read, and litigated. Within minutes, Trash White Girl trended worldwide. Amateur forensic linguists spliced clips, slowed audio, and swore they could see Griner's lips form every syllable. Others insisted the phrase was trash, fight me white girl, while a third camp claimed she never said anything beyond a frustrated trash. What's crystal clear is how fast the narrative split along familiar lines. Conservative influencers blasted the league for ignoring straight-up racism against a golden child of women's hoops, while progressive voices argued the outrage machine was manufacturing controversy to kneecap a queer black star.
Brittney Griner is playing a game, and this is what Brittney Griner calls. I was not going to comment on any of this stuff until this took place. Watch what she says. The entire internet has reacted to this. Here's Brittney Griner. They're playing against the Indiana Fever, and look what she's saying. Go ahead, Rob.
For the ticky-tack fouls that we were talking about earlier today.
Well, that pretty much sounds like trash effing white girl. Yeah. I mean, let's just be honest.
So the whole market reacts to this with Brittney Griner, right? And then the other quote, Rob, then I'm going to wrap this up, and then I'm going to go to Adam. Put the quote of Brittney Griner, what she said about the NBA. This is so funny how all this stuff works out, right? She says, this is from Brittney. Every time we play her, there's this commotion, like this loud rumbling from the stands. Turns out it's people, thousands of them, just sitting there.
Through it all, the WNBA office stayed zipped. No fines, no suspension, no press conference, just a short statement promising to review all available footage. That silence poured lighter fluid on the fire. Riley Gaines took to X to demand accountability. OutKick writers alleged a blackout on credentials for outlets asking inconvenient questions. Even mainstream sports media, usually thrilled for any WNBA buzz, treaded carefully, publishing roundups heavy on alleged and reportedly because no broadcast mic actually caught the slur. Yet the viral clip's power didn't come from audio. It came from the reaction shots. Clark rubbing her jaw, Griner barking something as she stomped away, and a sold-out arena gasping like they'd witnessed a mid-air collision. By the final buzzer, fans weren't debating the Fever's pick-and-roll efficiency. They were debating whether the league's biggest comeback story had just punched a hole through its own reputation. Just when pundits thought they'd squeezed every click out of the Elbowgate saga, a fringe Hoops Talk podcast dropped what it framed as a medical analysis of slowed down game footage, and because the internet never met a rumor it didn't like, a whole new firestorm ignited. According to these self-described sports medicine insiders, Griner's shoulder-to-hip ratio, clavicle length, and even the cadence of her post-foul stride supposedly mirrored male athletic patterns. The pièce de résistance was an old Instagram story resurfaced by Twitter detectives, a shirtless Griner flashing a grin while shooting around in her backyard, still viewable for weeks before anyone at Meta pulled it. Conspiracy channels pounced, claiming Meta's AI moderation flagged the clip as male torsos are fair game, female ones are not. Ergo, the algorithm inadvertently outed Griner.
However, this video actually resurfaced. It's an Instagram story from, I believe it says 109 weeks ago. I can't see from here, but over 2 years ago. That this video was recorded and it was recently leaked on Twitter. So Kelly, if we can go ahead and play this video, please, and then we'll have a discussion.
Value, Brittney. Let me see something real quick. Brick, thank you. Get the fucking
damn.
Look at the chest.
Yo. Jab stepping, it's a brick. Swing and miss.
Very clearly Brittney.
I ain't gonna fake it right now.
They called him/her by their name. And as you can clearly see here, his bare chest.
Mastectomy to remove their breast, but I don't see any surgery scars. Now, it's not a very clear image, but I would think that you'd be able to see something, and that just looks like the chest of a 13-year-old boy. I know that because I have a 14-year-old boy at home.
Yeah.
Mainstream outlets quickly pointed out the obvious holes. Instagram's nudity filters key more on visible nipples than bone density. Griner has talked openly for years about her flat chest after top surgery relating to gender expression, and crucially, the WNBA does require basic hormone testing for all players. Still, the rumor had legs. YouTube thumbnails screamed bio male next to red circle arrows. TikTok compilations mash Griner dunks against commentary from doctors who on closer inspection were chiropractors or orthopedists offering off-the-cuff opinions. Within 48 hours, the story metastasized into calls for full chromosome testing, International Olympic Committee-style panels, and retroactive stat nullification. Legitimate sports medicine specialists tried to inject nuance, noting that height and shoulder width tell you zilch about chromosomes, but nuance is a tough sell next to clickbait. The WNBA, already getting roasted for muting the slur question, now face demands to release every shred of Griner's medical file. Their reply? Another non-reply. PR 101 says, never dignify nonsense, but in the vacuum of silence, nonsense can sound like gospel.
I was terrified when I was thinking about going to that jail because I was like, what game are they going to play? And I soon found out one of the games on trying to tell me to go into one of the men's cells, and I'm like, I'm not going in that cell. And then the other guard, said something in Russian and shook his hand, and then they take me to the women's side, and I was just like, see, it's a game. You know?
Let's be fair. That's Riley. I like you a lot too. That's not right. She was wrongfully accused. And that is not fair to bring that up. So we're going to delete that, okay? Let's you and I continue. Again, I like you a lot. So
honestly has me shocked, right? I'm shocked because for a moment here, I thought I was watching BS NBC with the way that this Fox host goes full Rachel Maddow, full Joy Reid on Riley Gaines, because Riley Gaines told the truth about Brittney Griner and her being included in the Olympics over somebody like Caitlin Clark, who definitely, when you look at merit, deserves a spot on the team. Not only does she deserve a spot, she earned a spot.
Clark, to her credit, sidestepped the gender chatter entirely, telling reporters she's focused on basketball, yet the clip of her non-answer spawned its own headline cycle. By week's end, anyone hunting facts was knee-deep in a digital swamp where sources ranged from peer-reviewed journals to dudes live streaming from pickup courts. The only certainty was that medical leak had become the league's most radioactive phrase since travel violation. Suppose, just for argument's sake, the internet's self-appointed DNA detectives got their wish and the WNBA ordered a full battery of tests, chromosome panels, testosterone thresholds, bone density scans. Legally speaking, that move would plow straight into federal privacy law and Title VII protections. Even the IOC, which revamped its transgender policy in 2021, now leans on self-ID plus evidence-based case-by-case review, not blanket chromosome policing. If the WNBA demanded invasive testing of a well-known queer athlete based solely on social media innuendo, civil rights attorneys would file injunctions before the lab techs could spin a centrifuge. Yet the mere possibility has sponsors spooked. Brand managers live in dread of Twitter storms featuring their logo under boycott. Insiders say at least one sneaker giant quietly added morals clause language to future WNBA contracts, broad enough to cover material misrepresentation of athletic eligibility. Then there's competitive integrity. If, in the highly unlikely event Griner were proven biologically ineligible, every Mercury and Dream win she contributed to could face retroactive vacancies. Players who lost roster spots, playoff bonuses, even Olympic slots might pursue damages, arguing they were pushed aside by unfair advantage. Add up 8 seasons, 2 titles, and a $165,000 max salary plus overseas deals, we're talking multi-million-dollar liability. State athletic commissions could pile on. The NCAA might revisit Baylor's wins from Griner's college days. Internationally, FIBA could yank medals, spurring diplomatic fallout reminiscent of East Germany doping scandals. Legal scholars warn such avalanche effects could crush not just one career, but the league's finances, driving insurers to sky-high premiums or flat-out refusal. Small market teams already operate on razor-thin margins. A single eligibility lawsuit could bankrupt them. While execs measure legal fallout in dollars, sports psychologists tally damage in sleepless nights and shaken identities. For Clark, whose rookie year was already a circus of record-setting ratings and sold-out arenas, the elbow incident added a layer of unease. She's now not just the face of a franchise, but the unwitting lightning rod for a nationwide culture war skirmish. Teammates describe her as laser-focused, yet insiders note she's tightened her circle, skipping some post-game media availabilities to avoid bait questions about race or gender politics. Zoom out from the Dream schedule and the Fever's box scores, and you'll see governing bodies the world over holding emergency Zoom calls. NCAA compliance officers trade Slack messages about proactive verification protocols. FIBA officials dust off decades-old case studies on gender testing controversies, dating back to the 1960s when chromosomal checks reduced track legends to headlines. Even FIFA's Women's Committee lurks in the background. If basketball wrestles with eligibility, soccer could be next. The ripple effect extends to sponsorship. Global brands invest billions in women's sports precisely because it feels aspirational and controversy light. But a single unresolved eligibility scandal could spook advertisers faster than you can say avoid brand risk. One elbow, one alleged slur, one runaway medical leak, and suddenly the WNBA is balancing on the thinnest of tightropes. Lean left, you lose skeptics. Lean right, you alienate loyalists. Stand still, and rumor gravity pulls you down anyway. Brittney Griner may still be dropping double-doubles. Caitlin Clark may still splash logo threes, yet the questions swirling above them have grown far bigger than a scoreboard. Until the league breaks its silence, confirming, debunking, or at least outlining next steps, fans will keep refreshing timelines, pundits will keep spitballing chromosome theories, and every hard foul will feel like potential precedent. For now, all we can do is keep our eyes on the court and our ears open for that long overdue statement. Because in a sport defined by shot clocks, the WNBA is running dangerously low on timeouts. So what's your guys' take on all this? Be sure to let me know in the comments below. Smash that like button, subscribe, and turn on notifications.